What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first podcast of 2016. Happy New Year to everyone. Also, this day is quite a tragic day for all of us Benfiquistas. It marks the passing of Eusebio, the second year anniversary of the passing of Eusebio. But we're here. We're back after taking a week off and after giving you a little bit of some highlights. I hope you enjoyed that. We're here. On tonight's podcast, number 185, we will look back at the Nacional game for the League Cup. We'll also take a look back at the Guimaraes game, which was Benfica's first game of the 2016 year. And we will look ahead to Marítimo, which comes up tomorrow, midweek game. And also Nacional, that comes up this weekend. We'll meet tonight, Steve Santos.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Happy New Year.
Good. And Cristiano is kind of here, but he's being a silent partner tonight.
Just listening in.
That's right. Anyway, so Steve, let's get, without further ado, let's get right into this. Benfica played Nacional in the first game of the League Cup at Estadio da Luz, and we saw Vitória with five players that we usually doesn't use: Ederson, Silvio, Lindelof, Cristante, and Talisca were in the lineup. Also, Carcela got the start, but he's been playing a little bit. Lisandro and Eliseu across the back, and Pizzi was on the wing. Mitroglou and Samaris were the other two. I got to be honest, I think that you're in the same boat as me. I didn't get a chance to watch that game. Ever since that Ser Benfiquista forum went down, where we could download all the games, I can't find these games.
It's been very difficult, extremely difficult to catch games. This one, I'm going to be absolutely honest, I didn't even have a chance to check with the Christmas holidays and New Year's. By the time I had a chance to check, the following game had already came up, so I didn't get back to the other one. But yeah, it's a bit of a tragedy that's Benfiquista forum going down for us on the other side of the pond, who aren't always available to watch the games in the middle of the afternoon. Sometimes on the weekend you have things that you obviously have to do, and the other times you're at work. So it does get difficult to follow the teams at some points.
Yeah, if anybody knows where we could catch some of these games, and I know that NGSN or whatever it is, they will usually have the games up. There's also an option to DVR on Fubo. But there's certain games like these League Cup games, we can't find them anywhere.
Sweet.
And we always like to catch up on these games and watch these games, so at least we're given a little bit of an informative opinion on these games. So I'm just going to go by what I read. I read it was a pretty poor game by Benfica, Steve.
Same thing I read. I wish I could give you a little bit more insight on some of the players, especially since it was our chance to see some of the guys who haven't played that much, like Cristante, like Ederson, and Silvio's played a bit more. But I wasn't able to. I know not many players scored on Abola's match day report. The ratings the next day higher than a 6. I believe Cristante got a 5, which I was disappointed to see because I really wanted him to do well. But now news today is that he's off to Palermo for the rest.
Yeah, 6 million, I believe it was.
If you really think about it, too, because of when it happens, it's in between Christmas and New Year's. A lot of guys have their minds elsewhere, probably ate too much bacalhau and whatnot, so they're feeling a little bit lethargic. It's a difficult game to get yourself up for, especially for the Taça da Liga. Even if it's your shot at showing what you can bring to the team, it's still hard to bring forward.
Yeah, it's a tough game to come back to because, like you said, that there's still the focus isn't all there. A lot of these guys, I know that they travel. A lot of these guys traveled, so it was a difficult game to get up for, if you want to call it. But nonetheless, we get the win, which is basically when you get the win in the group stages, you're almost in the next round, which will be the semis. For the League Cup, we will now play Oriental, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Which just completely aside, I found a a funny tweet, basically pushing buttons at Rui Vitória and how he always says every game's a difficult game and blah blah blah. That he said Oriental is going to be a derby since they're from Lisboa as well. So
Yeah.
be prepared for them to say him. Be prepared for Rui Vitória to say that it's going to be a difficult game as it is a derby. But anyway, I thought
Yeah,
that
of
was
course.
pretty funny when I read it.
What was the score of the Moreirense game against Oriental? 5-1 or something like that? 5-0.
Yeah, it
It was
was
up there.
it was up there.
It wasn't even close. But what I wanted to, before we move on to the next topic, at the end of the game, Manuel Machado, which is the coach for Nacional, he said that he's surprised that Benfiquistas actually come to Estadio da Luz to watch such poor soccer.
You know what, man? It was a bit of an underhanded jab, but you gotta agree with the guy. I mean,
There's a little bit of truth to that.
there's truth there. There definitely is truth. We've been playing some quite atrocious football for the better part of this season. I can only think of a handful of moments, not even full games, where I thought we were playing quite well. So yeah, you gotta. There's definitely truth in it. You can't say the guy's a liar. Um, I think it's a bit easy to get even after losing in the last minute. I don't know, just trying to throw a jab in there, but there definitely is some truth to that statement.
Yeah, hopefully that doesn't come back to bite him in the ass this weekend.
We'll see.
That just serves as motivation for the team, really. Even though we're gonna have to travel to Madeira to play Nacional, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So, one win for Benfica, 1-0 win for Benfica, goal by Jimenez on the 90th minute, right in the closing minutes of the game, the closing seconds, I should say. So, I mean, we play poorly, we play like crap, but we managed to get these wins. So that's the most important thing, I guess.
Yeah, winning but not convincing. I know I've said this before, and we've ended up winning the league. So
Yeah,
long may that continue.
I'll take an ugly win over a pretty tie any minute.
Sure.
Yeah. So now Benfica was back in action this past was it Saturday or Saturday
Yeah.
against Guimaraes in a very crucial match for Benfica. On the other side of Lisbon, even though Benfica played up north, Sporting was playing Porto. So Benfica had a chance to benefit of the result of the Clásico, if you want to call it, between those two. And Benfica had a very, very tough game against Guimarães. I'll give you the lineup. Júlio César was in goal. Almeida, Lisandro, Jardel, and Eliseu across the back. Feiça for the for Samaris. Samaris was actually serving a one-game suspension after picking up way too many yellow cards. Sanches was in the middle with Feiça. Pizzi and Gaetan on the wings. Gaetan made his return after a short stint on the injury table. And Jonas and Jimenez were up front. Tough game, Steve. And we knew from perhaps the first 10-15 minutes that it was going to be a very tough game for Benfica, especially the way Guimarães came out to play this game. Very aggressive, high pressure, fouling a lot. I think within the 24 minutes, there was 9 fouls for Guimarães
Yeah,
inside the first 24 minutes.
definitely. If nothing else, Guimaraes were aggressive. I mean, um, we were back to what we've normally been. I mean, it's been stated here over and over again. The type of football that we're playing is not the greatest. A lot of back and forth cross field switches. Not too many interplays in between the lines or down the middle of the pitch. Just a lot of very predictable from us. That being said, I think if Guimarães probably had a coach that was I won't say ambitious because I'm sure Conceição was definitely ambitious, but if he had more to his game than just really riling up his players and making them aggressive and fighting for every ball, he's got some interesting players on that team. I think they could have gave us a lot more problems had they had a better coach. But that being said, they didn't really create much, and even though we never looked good, they never looked like scoring either. Um, just something to get back to about the starting 11 choice. I was extremely happy to see that Rui Vitória also agrees with what we've been saying lately, that PT's bringing a lot to the team right now. I mean, uh, the little bit of collective interplay type player that we're missing, and especially Jonas, I think, is missing a lot, is Pizzi. And he's showing up at least in spurts in that type of play. And Gedge at this point looks like, I don't want to say he's lost that thunder, because he never really had. He was never a world beater. He never came onto the scene like Renato has, but he's definitely been petering out a little bit, and we've called him out on it, and maybe he needed to be pulled aside and away from the spotlight, and it was
Yeah.
good. It was good that Rui Vitoria, to me, saw that and made for me the right decision to play Pizzi when Gaitan
Yeah.
returned.
I think that a couple of weeks ago we mentioned here that perhaps Rui Vitória should be safeguarding Guedes, and I think that was a good idea. I mean, if the kid's not playing well, if he suffers from a little bit of lack of confidence, I think you got to protect him. He's a very young kid mentally. He's not perhaps tooled yet to handle that type of pressure. To handle some of the comments that are starting to come from the stands, because from what I read on certain blogs, there's people that are losing patience with him. So it's good that Vitória is safeguarding. I'm also thinking that that Gedge off the bench, which is a guy that will have clear instructions on what to do, could be very useful for us. But now with Salviu's emergence, and we don't know when Salvi is going to be healthy to play, but I'm thinking that perhaps in 2-3 weeks' time, Salvi should be seeing some of the bench at least. I really don't know what's going to happen to Gedge, but he's a young kid. He's got time.
Yeah, he's got time, and he can learn from this little bit of time on the bench, after really getting a lot more minutes than he probably should have. Like you just said, if Salvi was fit, I don't think that Gedge would have played as much as he has so
Yeah.
far. So it's a good bit of grounding for Gedge after what's happened. That being said, if you watch the kid, he doesn't look like he's got an overinflated ego or anything like that. But we'll
No.
have to keep an eye on him.
Yeah, for sure. But as of right now, this is a grounding phase for, as you've said, for Gedge, which is, and like you said, if Salvi was playing, everything is status quo with Gonçalo Guedes right now. He's coming off the bench. He's grabbing a few minutes here and there with Salvi being healthy. So nothing new here. I think that his ascension was kind of meteoric. It was way too fast, perhaps, for him. Not saying that it doesn't have the talent, but it's a lot of pressure, and I think that we've mentioned that here on the podcast, that there's a lot of guys that are not equipped yet mentally to be able to put a performance they week in, week out, that's consistent. And we've seen the same thing with Sanches, with Renato.
Yeah.
Renato really, those first couple games that he did for Benfica, really astounding. But lately, and a lot of this may have a lot to do with the way the team is playing and the game model and all of that. But Renato hasn't really been an absolute burner. The absolute burner there he was in the first couple games, Steve.
No, and that's to be expected. It's an 18-year-old kid, playing, as you say, in a model that doesn't make it easy for him. The way that we set up on the pitch, and how few passing options he normally has,
Yeah.
and how many different reference points he should be taught. Like, he should be taught where to be in relation to where the ball is, and where his teammates and where his opponents are. And I don't believe he's getting that type of instruction from Rui Vitória.
Yeah.
I'm thinking he's learning all this kind of blind on his own. So yeah, it's not surprising that he's going to have some mediocre performances, but let's see something else. There is another part that we've all been mentioning. It's how he's coping with pressure, and how he's coping with having to be this extraordinary player that is in some ways carrying the team, if not so much in performance, but definitely because he's on the right side of the fans. I mean, nobody can dislike the kid. He's from the Benfica schools.
He's a Benfiquista.
He's a Benfiquista. He leaves it all out on the pitch, regardless of what's going on. If it's the 87th minute, he's going to give you the same thing he did in the first minute. The guy has got a tremendous work rate. But what we have to keep an eye on, because he is being asked to do a lot of this, is he going to get burnt out? And I know we've said this before, but there's also a lot of hype. There's a lot of things being said. There's $80 million release clauses. He's on the cover of today's Abola saying that he's carrying. Well, he doesn't say it specifically, but Abola says that he's carrying the team, which I could see how they're using that metaphor. But it's an 18-year-old kid, and he won't be the first one that gets burnt after so much praise. So
Yeah.
I would really wish that at times that the people in the media would try to shy away from these types of things. But I know that's the type of stuff that really sells papers. So it's what it comes down to. But you got to give the kid a lot of credit. He does not shy away from anything. He saved our ass really in this match with that wonder goal yet again. So yes, right now he is playing the part. I just really worry, me being the pessimistic person that I am, where this may go if we continue to overhype him and not really just let him be Renato instead of the person who has to carry our team at 18 years old.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of it is an indirect jab to Benfica, meaning you guys are so poor this year that an 18-year-old is actually carrying you. So they, interpret and read that as you may, but and the kid is talented. Nobody's taking that away from him. But as Steve and I mentioned, might be a little bit too much too soon for him. He's gotta go through stages. He's still a junior.
Technically, yeah, he can still play in the youth league.
Right. So I mean, is he one of our best players on the field? Yeah. The way we've been playing definitely is. And look, we're hoping all the best for Renato, and I hope that this rapid ascension doesn't really get well. He seems like a well-grounded kid, but this rapid ascension to the quality of an undisputed starter is not something that will in some way or another affect him mentally. That's the biggest thing. Because I don't think he's going to stop knowing how to play. And I think that his reading of the game, his interpretation of the game is only going to get better with the starts, with the different game situations that he's going to encounter. But the biggest part is the mental aspect of it.
Yeah, and some of the decision-making on the pitch as well, which is understandable. At 18 years old, you're not going to always make the right decision. Also understandable with the type of options that he has for passing, the type of instructions he's probably getting for doubling up and covering is not the type of stuff that you would want him to be getting. This is me probably taking a bit of another direct jab at Rui Vitoria, but it is what it is. But we just have to, as difficult as this may sound, we have to try to not overhype the player ourselves, if you know what I mean. Like the media is always going to do it. I just don't personally. I don't, as much as I like the kid, he's probably one of my favorite players on the team. I don't want to put him on a pedestal just yet, and that's what's happening. And I've seen stuff go wrong before with similar type of situations, with maybe not so much in the first team, but other players. One that I always like to bring up over and over again, Manuel Fernandes, some other guys, Fabio Pain, if you want to go that way. There's players that have been hyped up in the media, and then the drop from that pedestal is quite far and scary. So you want to keep the kid on level grounded and ready to fight for his spot and all his and everything that comes his way. You don't want anything just based on the hype. So
yeah, absolutely, definitely keep him grounded. So an important win from Benfica, and of course on that Renato Sanches wonder goal again, an absolute bomb. He already had threatened in the first half with a shot that hit the ground and the keeper saved well. Also, must be said that the keeper made quite a few good saves. He denied Jonas right at the half
Yeah, that was a big save.
of a goal that could have definitely set the tone differently for the second half. But we had a very hard time, and again, you look at this team. There's definitely a lack of ideas in the final third, a lack of imagination, a lack of creativity. Gaitan came back and he wasn't at 100%, as you guys could tell. He was substituted by Carcella. And I got to be honest, Carcella is growing on me because every time he comes in, he seems to add a little bit more to the team. And I think that there's been years where I've looked at the bench and I've said, well, there's no solutions on the bench, anything that could change the way the game is going. And I think that Carcella is becoming a player whose role coming off the bench is changing, is messing with the team, with what's going on with the team. And I'm kind of like liking that.
Oh, for sure. I think when you first saw even YouTube videos of Carcella, you saw pace, you saw good technique. What we saw here, which I remember listening to on the highlights pod, was Chris basically looking at the guy and thinking, this guy's a bit of a prima donna, a little lackadaisical, not really interested. But now it's a bit of a different story. You have to say there's a player there that is determined to really show his value, whether it's to potential suitors now in January, like I've been reading, which I personally would hope that's not the case, or if it is to Rui Vitória himself, just to, look at me, I'm here, I'm making the difference, put me in the beginning. But let's call it what it is. He's exactly the type of player that really is going to shine in the way that we're playing football. A super individualistic player with that good turn of pace, good 1v1. It's exactly the kind of player that at this point, the way we are playing and the way that collectively we can't really make things happen, these guys are the type of players that are really going to shine.
Yeah, he's the guy that has the tool set to make a difference, especially coming off the bench when he's fresher, when he has an extra step on his defender. I'm not saying that he wouldn't be successful starting, but is the guy that's right now his role coming off the bench when Benfica needs an extra gear, needs an extra guy to beat the man one-on-one and create mismatches in defense. I think that Carcella is the right guy. Not only that, and I think that Carcella's confidence has been growing as the time has gone by, and I think that there's nothing wrong with that. There's always a period of adaptation for these new players that come from a different league, from different realities, and they come to the Portuguese league and they're faced with a different game, different style, different pace. And I think that the gradual progression of Carcella has been noticeable, and I'm actually liking the way that he's developed and he's progressed.
Completely agree.
Yeah. So, but as I was saying, and just to finish up to move on, still we need to do a lot better in the final third. And I know that we're lacking a lot as far as team chemistry. And I think that right now, a lot of what's bailing us out and it's individual quality. I mean, we see it with Gaitan, he's on the pitch and he's 100% healthy. I mean, you see it with Carcella, you see flashes from Pizzi. I think Jonas hasn't been at the same level as last year, but
he's still top scorer in the league.
Right, but that has a lot to do with the game model, has a lot to do with the partner he has up front, and it has a lot to do with many things. But I think that right now, for us to be 2 points from Porto, who's in second, and 4 points from Sporting, after the Sporting beat Porto at the Alvalade, I think that we're in a perfect spot. We got 2 more games for before the turn, and I think that this is a good spot for us, Steve.
If nothing else, considering the type of football we've been playing, I think it's slightly flattering. Regardless of if you're going to use last year as a measure or not, just looking at what we've done this year in comparison to the other teams available, 2 points is great, or other teams in the league not available. Sorry.
Yeah, Absolutely. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next topic. Before we do, we're gonna take a short break for Nelson's halftime headlines. If you're watching this live, you're gonna hear a small short silence. If you're listening to the podcast, the audio will be there. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back for the second half of the podcast after Nelson's halftime headlines. And let's turn our attention to the games that are coming up. Maritim comes up this Wednesday. Uh, Steve, I'm actually impressed by the Portuguese league. This midweek games. What is this? The EPL?
Yeah, it's kind of shocking. It's like they're trying to make up time or something. It's weird.
Well, I think they're trying to fit the League Cup in there somehow.
That's probably it. I didn't really look at the schedule trying to see how they're trying to fit things in. But a midweek game in the league, I can't remember the last time we had one.
Yeah, I haven't looked yet, but it's possible that they're trying to finish the league early because of the Euro.
That's probably it.
Yeah, but Maritim comes up this Wednesday at Estadio da Luz. I think probably 8:30 local, if I'm not mistaken. Maritim is currently 10th with 18 points from 5 wins, 3 ties, and 7 losses. Away, they have 2 wins, 1 tie, and 5 losses. They have the second worst defense away from the Madeira Island, Steve.
Well, it's all positive things. If you look at that, they're not having one of their better seasons down in 10th. That being said, there's never really. I don't want to sound like Rui Vitória, but lately it doesn't seem like there's any easy games anymore, no matter who we face or what the circumstances are. So I don't want to get overexcited. Rui Vitória in his press conference mentioned that they have some players that could do us damage. I think if you want to think of one in particular, Tiago Rodrigues, I believe his name is, that's not product but Porto property on loan to Marítimo.
Yeah,
Rui Vitória would know him well from his time together at Guimaraes, and if you guys remember last year, we beat Nacional, where he was last year 3-1, but he scored a cracker of a goal against us. A nice shot from outside the box. So they will have their weapons. They will cause us problems just like everyone else has. So we're just gonna have to see how the game comes. That's something that we get to say every week, really. I mean, outside of the big three, we normally approach most games more or less the same, whether they're away or at home. But what was very different in the lead up to today's or tomorrow's game was the press conference.
Yeah.
Maybe you could shed some light on what happened there, and we'll discuss a bit.
Yeah. So it's funny actually, because during the highlights, I remember us talking about the presser before the Super Cup and what the approaches were from JJ and Rui Vitória. JJ just let her all out, and Vitória was saying that he wasn't going to answer, that he would only answer when you wanted and to who you wanted. And it looks like, if you had a chance to watch the presser before this game, Rui Vitória just opened it up. And apparently, and I don't know if you guys have caught up with this, but at the end of the Porto or the Sporting Porto game, Lopetegui was asked if he should step down or if his job was in risk because of what's been going on with Porto, and JJ actually answered reporters saying that we shouldn't be questioning Lopetegui, and maybe you should be questioning guys that were 8 points behind at one point. So Rui Vitória apparently thought that there was a message to him, and he just opened it up this week, or actually today. He opened it up and he said that maybe those are questions that they should have asked in 2011, 2012, and 2013, when JJ was basically losing the championship to Porto after having a lead. But he opened it up. He just said that we know the games that are being played. We've already seen these stories, and we know what's coming, and we know exactly what kind of message they're trying to send out to us. But it's not going to take us away from our unity. The team is very united right now, and no one from the outside is going to take away from that unity. So that was basically it. But if you get a chance, I would recommend you watch that press conference, because it was quite different for Rui Vitória from what we've seen so far. And he told the journalists, "I will answer any question you have, harder, simple, stupid. I will answer any question." And he really did. He just opened it up.
Yeah, I'll have to say I liked his approach. I mean, he went on about being true to himself and having dignity and respect and whatnot. My only worry is, so far this year to date, JJ's been winning on the pitch in the head-to-head battles versus Rui Vitória. I really don't want him to get involved in too many spats off the pitch as well, because if things do end up going in Sporting's favor at the end of the year, we're going to be at the butt end of many jokes to go along with just being second to them or third to them. So I would have, I don't know, it's hard to say. I feel like I would have tried to shy away and not really get involved, but when you're getting directly jabbed at, it's a little bit difficult not to stay quiet. So
yeah,
it is what it is. I guess Rui had to say something, so he went out and did.
I think he's had enough. Maybe that's his plan all along, to remain quiet in the beginning. But really, I mean, there's not one day that there's not one headline about somebody from Sporting, whether it's Badocha, Carvalho, or Inácio, or that other Otávio, the Mr. Tractor, what do they call him, Labrego or something, or Trator or something like that. That one of those guys isn't talking about us. Just leave us alone. Worry about you. You're in first place. Don't worry about us. What's going on over there? Do you really have that much need? Did you get off on talking about Benfica?
No, that's always been the case from that club. It's nothing new.
Yeah, and then there was a big thing about the couple penalties that weren't called against Benfica in the Guimaraes game. But they always find a way to comment, to talk about us. Maybe that's why the media will pay attention to them.
That's exactly what it is. All those types of headlines sell newspapers, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
Something else that I know we've discussed, and I've been asked a lot about Grimaldo. Rui Vitória was asked again today about him, basically saying he's just like any other player. He doesn't make miracles. He's a player with a high ceiling, young, lots of talent, but he's going to have to basically make his way into the side, and we'll see what type of part he has to play.
Yeah. This is a guy that's not coming from South America, so he's in full swing of the season. He's in game shape.
It's just,
you want to call him.
It's a different level than what he's been playing in the past couple of years. But let's see. I really think that if he's given a couple opportunities, that he will show what he has worth. And
yeah, does he play against Oriental?
I'm sure that's going to be his first game. I'm sure. I'm sure that's going to be his first full 90. I don't know. Unless Eliseu goes down, I don't think he's going to pinch a spot too soon. But we'll see.
Yeah, I don't. I'm glad that Benfica picked him up, because I don't know how I feel about Eliseu. Oh. I don't know if I can hold on to the Popsicle much longer.
That's a reoccurring topic here, and throughout the whole Benfica nation, as it's somewhat, as it is sometimes stated. But Eliseu is made scapegoat for a lot of things, and sometimes he deserves it, sometimes he doesn't. We'll see. I have high hopes for Grimaldo, and I have a little bit of an inkling that he's going to make good before the end of the season and really show the type of player that he looked like he was going to be a couple of years ago at the juniors at Barca. So let's see what happens.
I think by the month of February, Grimaldo is starting for us.
Oh, now that's really saying something. So let's hold on to that.
So I think that I think that there's not much to it. I think. Okay. And look, I haven't seen the kid play in a long time, but it's going to be a huge upgrade, to be honest with you, left. Can you imagine Grimaldo on side and Semedo on the other?
Well, that's something to look forward to, because the way we play with two players in the middle that kind of sit behind the ball most of the time. Even Renato is now getting a little bit ahead of the line of the ball more often, but we're defending with a lot of guys, so that should leave us with um, more freedom for our fullbacks. So it would be nice to have a guy on the left and a guy on the right who can really get forward and offer some more width. So let's
Yeah.
see.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to that. But just to finish up on the Marítimo thing, Sporting in Porto also plays. Sporting plays at Setúbal, which Setúbal it's what, maybe top five without looking real quick, and Porto hosts Rio Ave. So it's a very crucial round of the league, if you want to call it, because just Maritimo is intent, but it's always a tough game, especially the way we've been playing. But an equally tough set of games for both of our direct opponents, which are ahead of us in the table. So we're looking forward to winning this game and perhaps benefiting from maybe a win or a loss or a tie, I should say, from these guys. So we'll see what happens, but it's an important, crucial match for us that we need to win. As a matter of fact, our margin of error has diminished quite a bit, even though we're only 2 points behind second place and 4 points behind first place. Our margin for error, we know we can't afford to lose any more games, especially these games against mid to lower table teams, regardless of our history against them, regardless of whether they've given us hard games in the past. These are the games that we need to win. These is where the championships are won. So we'll just have to see how it goes. On Sunday, Benfica will play Nacional. We'll travel to Madeira to play Nacional, the rematch from the League Cup game. Nacional is currently 14th with 4 wins, 4 ties, and 7 losses. So not a very stellar campaign for a Manuel Machado team. He usually has better teams, and he usually is more or less in middle to top of the table, really. But Nacional hasn't been doing all that great. I hope that Benfica is able to play this game, number one, because of the fog that's been shown at the Madeira Island, especially at the Nacional stadium, and I hope that we're able to stuff it in Manuel Machado's ass.
You would say that.
That's the Nacional game is actually the very last game of the first round before we turn.
Yes. Actually, key point about the Marítimo game that I wanted to mention, but I missed it at the time. Bola is reporting that Gaetan is not.
Yeah, Gaetan is. He
not
didn't
going to
make the
be
roster.
there.
He
You
didn't make
go.
the roster.
So it might be a start for Carcella at this point. I would have to think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that he's earned it.
Yep.
I'm happy with Gonçalo Guedes being on the bench. I'm regardless. I'm not happy, but I'd be okay with that.
It's the right decision, is the way I like to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So a few other things came up this week, or between the last time we were on and now. The Pizzi, Benfica acquired the remaining 50% of Pizzi for 8 million, making him one of the most expensive Benfica players ever. But I mean, if you know anything from the history between the two clubs, you know there's plenty of shady deals with the two clubs. From the Roberto deal with 9 million for 50% of Jimenez. We really don't know what's going on there, to be honest with you.
Wasn't there funny business with Simão, with Reyes?
Yeah.
Basically, we've done a lot of business with them over the years. Who knows really why or how the money's exchanging hands anymore? Pizzi, he's not the best player on the side. He shouldn't be the most expensive player on the side. That's just the easiest way to finish that off. So
yeah, exactly. So take that with a grain of salt. Maybe we should have just included Talisca in the deal.
Oh man, don't get me started.
Yeah. Sorry, Talisca fans. I don't know if there's any of you out there, but I think that I'm done with Talisca.
I won't even comment. I've been done since day one, as everybody who listens to the pod would
Yeah.
know.
The other thing that Steve had mentioned, and I think that's been confirmed, that Cristante is actually going on loan to Palermo in Italy, and he's got a 6 million buy clause. And I think that clause is only for Palermo, no one else.
Yeah, I believe so, and I think that's just us making 2 million because I believe we paid four to grab the
Yeah,
kid, which was supposedly
yeah.
a really good deal. I saw earlier that Meg had a question. What do we think about this loan deal? Uh, I think it's best for him, but I would be lying to you if knew to say that I knew enough about Palermo and whether or not he's going to start a lot of games or not. Um, he's obviously, for one reason or another, not really in our plans. Yes, there is two players who play defensive midfield ahead of him, but like we said earlier in the year, it's always been a weird situation with Cristante. I mean, no minutes on the B team till till the Taça da Liga match. There was a stat running around. He had only played 14 minutes in all of 2015. I mean, that's 14 official minutes. I don't know how much he ended up playing while they were in North America, but that's pretty disgusting. I mean, Taça da Liga games, cup games, whatever. There's got to have been more opportunities for a player with the type of feet that this kid has. I mean, you could say a lot of things about the kid, but there was definitely something there. I mean, if Jurisic got X amount of minutes, why did Cristante only get X? Like I don't know the exact figures, but I know Jurisic got more. So
Yeah, for sure. I think overall, I think it's going to be a good move for him. Whether or not Palermo is going to have the 6 million to buy him out at the end of the contract, that's a different story. But what you do is that if the kid's successful and he starts playing for Palermo, all of a sudden you open the Italian market, and I'm sure that you're not going to sell Cristante to any other Italian team for 6 million. That deal is only for Palermo.
yeah, and that's the other thing. His market there is still huge. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, he was the captain of the U20 or U19 team, the Italian national team.
yeah, and there's always like the bigger clubs in Italy are always linked to him. I've seen um bigger, quote unquote. Napoli, I heard was interested. There was Bologna, and I think even Juve at one point. I don't know what they wanted him for, but I would have swore I read that as well. So
Yeah,
he's definitely still has quite the reputation back in his home country. So maybe going back home and getting a few more minutes than he would with us is going to be beneficial for all.
yeah. I know that there's also been a buzz about Nelson Oliveira lately, playing for in the English Championship for Nottingham Forest, 6 goals in 15 appearances. I think for a guy that's highly touted and the guy that has aspirations, you should be doing a lot more than 6 goals in 15 games, especially at the championship level. Come on, let's not get crazy with Nelson Oliveira. That's nothing really.
Uh, the book for me on Nelson is closed. I don't think that if he's going to do something, he's going to have to drastically change what he's from the person that he's been up until now. I mean, everywhere he goes, he comes back the next year. No one wants to put an offer in. Nothing.
Yeah.
It's
No.
and he comes in and his dad talks and he
Yeah.
talks and he never really does any talking on the pitch with a Benfica jersey. Since that nice goal, if I remember right, against Zenit, uh, really, there's not much you
Yeah.
can say that he's done for us. I've seen a couple goals here and there on
Yeah.
his loan spells, but really, it's not a player that we need around. I think he's got a poisonous attitude from what we could read from the outside. I'm not interested.
Yeah. Now you got to, for me, you got to be doing a lot better at the English Championship if you want to get another look. The scouting report is in, obviously, on him, and apparently nobody really wants to touch him. But I mean, he's doing good for Nottingham Forest. Hey, God bless him. For me, he's not impressing me. And those of you that think that he should earn a call up, I don't know. I think he comes to Benfica, and he's all the same. It's Viro diz que toca o mesmo. Nothing changes from Nelson Oliveira. But and I'm with you, Steve. Unless something drastically changes, and he goes through a maturity growth spurt, perhaps. I think that maybe then we should be looking at Nelson Oliveira. Other than that, I think that he hasn't done well enough. Not that the forwards that we have are much above him right now, Mitroglou and Jimenez I'm talking about, but still, I think they're still ahead of Nelson Oliveira in maturity and perhaps a football brain, if you want to call it.
Yeah. What I think will be interesting is I have to confirm this, but I'm pretty sure I looked at it earlier in the year. I believe this is Nelson's last year of contract. So this summer is going to be an interesting one, if that's the case. I didn't get a chance to look at it before, but I'll try to get to you guys before the end of the night and see if I'm right on that.
Yeah. One question here from Eric Vesper. How do you guys feel about the strength of the squad? Is it going to be enough to make us contenders? And who could we buy? I think that once you get Salvio and Semedo, I think that adds a lot to the team. I think that for me right now, and on a primary level, I think maybe I would like a name for a forward, a guy that's perhaps at a higher level than Mitroglou and Jimenez. A guy that can come in at the forward line and make an immediate impact. A guy that will gel well with Jonas. I think that would be the key for me. From a secondary standpoint, I think that a guy that can come and mentor Renato Sanches would probably be a good buy, but I'm not sure how many of those guys are out there on the market.
Yeah, we've mentioned that a couple of times. I've said it before. I don't think that this team, in terms of player personnel, yes, it's not the best squad in the league. I still think in terms of absolute talent and footballing ability, that still goes to Porto. But it's definitely a team that has enough talent and potential to win a league. Where I don't know if we're capable is at the head coach spot. We'll keep an eye on that. But in terms of player personnel, I don't think we're that far off the other two. I think we have a fighting chance. I mean, Sporting does not have a better squad than us. They don't have better players than us.
And nobody's running away at the moment with the title.
Exactly. For right now, the way things are, as long as you can keep it tight, you're going to be there at the end because people will drop points. Hopefully we're not one of them.
Yeah, just think about it this way, right? On the back end, on the second round of the league, Porto and Sporting will play themselves again at the last quarter of the second round. They would also play Setúbal and Rio Ave again. So I think that they have a much harder finish of the league than we do, which is it's encouraging for us, if you want to call it, if you want to look at it. Eric Vesper again. Say we finish third but win the Mickey Mouse Cup and make it to the CL quarters. Would that be enough to give Rui Vitória another year? Eric, I think it's all relevant, man, because we really don't know what goals were set, what goals and benchmarks were set by Luis Felipe Vieira to Rui Vitória. It's all relevant. Without knowing those goals and those benchmarks, we don't know what he's being judged on.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. My whole thing is the Portuguese league in terms of competition and trophies is got to be the top of the list for Benfica. I personally don't think that they hold quarterfinals in the Champions League higher than winning the league. At least personally, I don't. I might be wrong because there's obvious financial rewards that may make us think differently. But I think the league, it will always be the number one goal in terms of a trophy. Like you say, we don't know exactly what type of goals were given for Rui Vitória. We don't know if it was, he was told it was a transition year. You got to bring in these guys and whatnot. But
for me, the league is the most important. And I think if like I've said since the beginning of the year, if he finishes the season within 5 to 7 points within the top spot, I don't think he's going to lose his job, even if I might believe that myself that he probably should. That's the way I look at it. I think if he's not blown out at the end of the year with at the beginning of the year us really showing that we're having to cut down our wage bill and we're not buying the same types of players like we used to buy, I think that we can't really judge him too harshly. It's just for me on the pitch, I'm expecting to see things that show me that he's more tactically aware than what he's shown me so far. So that's where I'm going with that. I could see that where his goals were probably set. It's just the progression and the type of football that we've seen is what makes me worry.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all irrelevant to me. We don't know what kind of goals were set for him, and what he's being judged on. Shout out to Sergio. Já foste, he's in Vegas. Sergio, if you're on the roulettes, everything on red, bro. And if you want to be daring, 35 red. And you know why.
That's a good one.
Let's see what else we got here. Oh, he says, I'm betting 17 red on roulette table at the Bellagio.
Jonas.
Yep. Kevin says, I think it was great to see Rui Vitória come out like that, light a fire in his belly and motivate this team. I agree. Lead by example. Sergio says, the hydrated one finally grew some balls.
That was a good line. I like the hydrated. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Instead of the special one, it's the hydrated one, and it's like a cartoon of Rui Vitória, if I remember correctly. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
A couple of things that I saw posted. I think it was from Nelson. Grimaldo, Semedo on the flanks with Gaetan and Salvio. That is about as good as it gets in our league, really.
Yeah.
Well, given what we think Semedo and Grimaldo can do, given on potential, we have to see what it comes out to. Another thing he said, which to me basically is Jonas playing up front on his own. I said it a couple of weeks ago that given what we've seen so far, that's the best football I've seen so far was with Jonas up front alone. He's saying Jonas and Pizzi up front. I don't think it'll ever look that way.
I don't think Pizzi's the central player.
Yeah,
to be honest with you.
Even if you're saying it's 4-4-2 with Jonas and Pizzi up front, I don't think it'll ever actually look like that's the case. So,
I don't think Pizzi's a central player. I think he's more of a guy that likes to start on the wing and come inside.
I'm really liking what he's done for us since he's come in, and I think I've been saying that every week for probably a good month now. So long may it continue. I just worry how it's going to get reshuffled when Salvio's fit, and it might end up working as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that when you get Semedo and Salvio back, that's a huge boost. Not to mention Luizão. I'm not saying that I haven't liked Lisandro so far, but it's a huge boost, and it's kind of. It hasn't worked for us, but we also got to see what kind of condition Salvio comes in. I don't think Semedo's injury is something that can make me concerned about what he could do with he's going to lose some of his abilities. Unlike Salvio, that's a huge injury, a knee injury. We don't know how it's going to affect him, especially a guy that works off a lot of his explosiveness. To have a knee injury, it's something that can limit him. So I'm a little bit concerned as far as Salvio goes and his return and how he's going to return.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, he's a beast of an athlete, and those knee injuries really, really slow you down. So let's see what happens.
Yeah. So I think that's about it. That's all I got. I don't know if that's all the questions that I saw, really. I know that Neil was all over my timeline.
As usual. Does the presser today introduce a leaner, meaner, hydrated one? Rui Vitalis.
Rui Vitalis, that's a good one.
Sergio, you always got the best little one-liners.
I think that hydrated one. I don't know if that came from Sergio. I don't know if that's.
I know he posted it, but I don't know if he's the one who created it.
Yeah, that's a good one, Sergio. Trademark that shit, man. That could be a shirt somehow.
Yeah, I agree.
Benfica.spreadshirt.com is where you could get the Eat, Sleep, Benfica Repeat t-shirts.
Yeah.
PlanetBenfica.co.uk is where you can find our friends. On the other side of Atlantic, Mario runs their boards. Also, there's always a game thread for every upcoming game, so you could go in there and just talk to other Benfiquistas about the game. I know that Mario and Cynthia are expecting a baby anytime, as well as you also, Mr. Stantos.
Yeah, due date is fast approaching. It's this Friday. I'm super excited. I think it might mean for a little podcast hiatus once again, like I had at the beginning of the year. But we'll discuss that terms as they go along.
At 10CO10 is where you can find Chris on Twitter. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here. He's working. He was here for a little bit, but couldn't talk. He was listening to us. At Steve Santos 6, at Benfica Podcast, at Talking to the Doll is my personal one. BenficaPodcast.com. We're also on Facebook if Facebook is your thing. What else? I think that's it. Thank you very much for checking us out. A happy New Year to everyone. Hope everyone started their new year with the right foot. Benfica certainly did. As ugly as it was, 3 points is 3 points, and I'll take it.
Especially in those situations. It was a very crucial game to get 3 points, like we said before.
Let's hope that we continue on that on that same wave of wins, because this January month is going to be crucial for us, going to be crucial for our aspirations in many competitions. Then we have the Champions League in February, so on and so forth. So we're going to need some guys to come back healthy and to give the contribution to this team if this team is going to be going anywhere. We also need a little bit of improvement from Vitoria's side.
Agreed.
And I'm not just talking about his electrolytes improvement.
Electrolytes?
Yeah. That's where you replenish your electrolytes when you hydrate.
Man, you're always killing me with that knowledge.
It's either water or Gatorade.
Oh, I see.
I'm a source of useless information. Thanks, everybody, for checking us out. Big shout out to everyone who was watching us live. And thanks for all your support always. And we'll be back next week. We will break down the Maritime game and the Nacional game. We'll also look ahead to the next round, which is against Studio and Oriental also.
Yeah. So we're going to be staying pretty close to the capital for the next couple of weeks.
That's right. Thanks, everybody, for checking us out. Speak to you next week. See ya.
Ciao.